Hello everybody, continued translation of Much Ado About Nothing. You need to watch the previous videos in the series, and we're continuing in this scene. Enter Claudio, Beatrice, Hero and Leonato. And Benedict says, "Will your grace command me any service to the world's end? I will go on the slightest errand now to the Antipodes that you can devise to send me on. I will fetch you a toothpicker now from the furthest inch of Asia, bring you the length of Prester John's foot, fetch you a hair of the great Cham's beard, do you any embassage to the Pygmies, rather than hold 3 words conference with this harpy. You have no employment for me?" Now this is, a very powerful moment from Benedict, who's really saying to Don Pedro, "Will your grace please send me on any mission to the far ends of the earth? I will go to the opposite side of the world on the most trivial errand that you can think of. I'll fetch you a toothpick from the far end of Asia, find out Prester John's shoe size, fetch you a hair from the Mongol emperor's beard, deliver a message to the Pygmies, anything, rather than speak 3 words with this awful woman. Is there no job you have for me?" And Don Pedro says, "None, but to desire your good company." In other words, no, I don't want anything other than for you to be here so I can enjoy your friendship. And Benedict says, "Oh God, sir, here's a dish I love not. I cannot endure my lady tongue." In other words, "Oh God, sir, here comes a dish I don't want to eat. I can't stand tongue." And he leaves. And Don Pedro says, "Come, lady, come. You have lost the heart of Signor Benedict." In other words, you've lost his heart. You've broken his heart. And Beatrice says, now this is a line that is often missed. "Indeed, my lord, he lent it me a while, and I gave him use for it, a double heart for his single one. Marry, once before he won it of me with false dice. Therefore your grace may well say I have lost it." In other words, it's true, my lord, he lent his heart to me for a while, and I returned it with interest, 2 for the price of 1. Really, he won it from me previously by trickery. So you may well say I have lost it. Don Pedro says, "You have put him down, lady, you've put him down, you've humiliated him." And Beatrice says, "So I would not he should do me, my lord, lest I should prove the mother of fools. I brought Count Claudio, whom you sent me to seek." So she's basically saying, well, I hope he never puts me down on a bed, my lord, or I would give birth to fools. I brought Count Claudio, who you sent me to look for. Now this is obviously a very tense moment, and Don Pedro says, "Why, how now, Count? Wherefore are you sad?" In other words, "What's the trouble, Claudio? Why are you sad?" And Claudio says, "Not sad, my lord." "How then, sick?" "Neither, my lord." So in other words, "I'm not sad." "Well, are you sick?" "No, I'm not sick." And Beatrice says, "The Count is neither sad nor sick nor merry nor well, but civil, Count, civil as an orange, and something of that jealous complexion." And it's interesting here, isn't it, to think about how when Benedict has left the stage, Beatrice essentially picks up his role in this sort of comic, banterish character. And she's saying the Count isn't sad nor sick nor happy nor well, he's just civil. Or is it Seville, like the bitter marmalade orange, for he has something of the bitter look of jealousy about him. Don Pedro says, "In faith, lady, I think your blazon to be true, though I'll be sworn if he had be so, his conceit is false. Here, Claudio, I have wooed in thy name, and fair Hero is won. I have broke with her father, and his goodwill obtained. Name the day of marriage, and God give thee joy." So in other words, this is the very anticlimactic sort of reveal of the trick just being false, the Don John Borraccio trick, where Don Pedro basically says, "Beatrice, I think you're right. But if that's the case, he's mistaken. Here, Claudio, I have wooed Hero for you. I've won her hand in marriage for you. I've discussed it with her father. He gives his consent. Name the day. You'll be married. God give you joy." And then Leonato, "Count, take of me my daughter, and with her my fortunes. His grace hath made the match, and grace say amen to it." In other words, here, take her, and all my money will come with her. His Grace the Prince has made the match, and may gracious God bless it. Beatrice says, "Speak, Count, 'tis your cue." In other words, well, Claudio, it's your turn to say something. And Claudio says, in this very overly sweet way, "Silence is the perfectest herald of joy. I were but little happy if I could say how much Lady, as you are mine, I am yours. I give away myself for you and dote upon the exchange. In other words, my silence shows how happy I am. If I were able to say how happy I was, it would mean I was only a little happy. Lady, you are mine, I am yours. I give myself to you as you give yourself to me, and am overjoyed by the exchange. Now, there are two interesting relationships in this play. The relationship between Claudio and Hero, which is very sickly and sort of this kind of idea of courtly love, of what we would expect historically in this context for a relationship to be like. The dominant male, the passive female, the sweet, sickly wooing of words. And then Beatrice and Benedict, which is much more realistic, the sort of warts and all love. Okay, it's not perfect, but it works out to be, what we would imagine would be much better. And Beatrice again acts as a sort of MC. Speak, cousin, or if you cannot, stop his mouth with a kiss, and let not him speak neither. In other words, say something, or if you can't, give him a kiss, and that'll shut him up. Don Pedro says, in faith, lady, you have a merry heart. So, you're a happy one. And Beatrice says, yea, my lord, I think it. Poor fool, it keeps on the windy side of care. My cousin tells me in his ear that he is in his heart. So, yes, my lord, I thank it, the poor fool, that it steers clear of seriousness. Look, my cousin is whispering into Claudio's ear that he has a place in her heart. And Claudio says, and so she doth, cousin. In other words, you're completely right. And look at how Claudio calls her cousin. It's as if, oh, we're all family now. And Beatrice says, good Lord for alliance, thus goes everyone to the well but I, and I am sunburnt. I may sit in a corner and cry hi-ho for a husband. In other words, what is she saying here? She's saying, thank the Lord for marriage. So goes everyone out into the world except me. I'm just rough and sunburned. I'll sit in a corner and tearfully quote that song, hi-ho, for a husband. And then that kind of awkward moment where Don Pedro says, Lady Beatrice, I'll get you one. I'll get you a husband. And Beatrice said, I would rather have one of your father's getting. Hath your grace never a brother like you? Your father got excellent husbands, if a maid could come by them. So in other words, well, I'd rather your father produced me a husband. Doesn't your grace have any brothers? Your father raised excellent husbands, if a girl could only catch one. And then in the sort of most awkward moment of the entire play, Don Pedro says, will you have me, lady? In other words, would you marry me? Beatrice has to think quickly and says, no, my lord, unless I might have another for working days. Your grace is too costly to wear every day, but I beseech your grace pardon me. I was born to speak all mirth and no matter. In other words, no, my lord, unless I could have another husband for working days. You're too expensive for everyday wear, but please forgive me. I'm all talk and no trousers. I just sort of talk and I'm not really serious in what I'm saying. Don Pedro sees the opportunity to reclaim his honour and says, your silence most offends me, and to be merry best becomes you, for out of question you were born in a merry hour. So, I'd be offended if you were silent. Being happy is what suits you best. Without doubt you were born at a merry time. Beatrice says, no, sure, my lord, my mother cried, but then there was a star danced, and under that was I born. Cousins, God give you joy. In other words, absolutely not, my lord. I wasn't born at a happy time. My mother cried while she was in labour, but then there was a star in the sky when I was born. I wish you joy. Leonato says, niece, will you look to those things I told you of? So you're going to deal with those things we spoke about. And Beatrice says, I cry you mercy, uncle, by your grace's pardon. Yes, sorry, I forgot. Don Pedro then says, by my troth, a pleasant-spirited lady. So, she's very highly spirited. Leonato says, there's little of the melancholy element in her, my lord. She's never sad but when she sleeps, and not even sad then, for I've heard my daughter say she's often dreamed of unhappiness and waked herself with laughing. So what he's, is saying is, well, she's never unhappy, even when she has a bad dream, she wakes up laughing. And Don Pedro says she cannot endure to hear tell of a husband. So, isn't it funny how she's just really doesn't want to get married? And Leonato says, oh, by no means, she mocks all her wooers out of suit. In other words, well, there are lots of men who want her, but she just takes the mickey out of them until they give up. Don Pedro says, she were an excellent wife for Benedict. So wouldn't she make the perfect wife for Benedict? Leonardo says, "Oh Lord, my Lord, if they were but a week married, they would talk themselves mad. Goodness, no, my Lord, they drive each other mad." Don Pedro says, "County Claudio, when mean you to go to church? So when are you going to get married?" And Claudio says, "Tomorrow, my Lord. Time goes on crutches till love hath all his right. So we're going to get married tomorrow, because time moves really slowly until you get married. So very quick marriage." But Leonardo says, "Not till Monday, my dear son, which is hence just 7 night, and a time too brief too to have all things answered in my mind. So, hold off, wait until next week. Only a week away, and then that's still not really enough time to plan what I want to get planned." And Don Pedro says, "Come, you shake the head at so long a breathing, but I warrant thee, Claudio, the time shall not go dully by us. I will in the interim undertake one of Hercules' labours, which is to bring Signor Benedict and the Lady Beatrice into a mountain of affection the one with the other. I would fain have it a match, and I doubt but not to fashion it, if you three will but minister such assistance as I shall give you direction." So here's the plot. Come on, Claudio, don't be depressed that you've got to wait a week to get married. In the meantime, we're going to go on a very difficult mission to try and get Beatrice and Benedict together. Will you help me? And Leonardo says, "My lord, I am for you, though it cost me 10 nights' watchings." In other words, even if I have to stay up for 10 nights in a row, I'll do it. And Claudio says, "And I, my lord." "And you too, gentle hero?" "I will do any modest office, my lord, to help my cousin to a good husband." In other words, they're all in. They're all in, and it finishes with Don Pedro saying, "And Benedict is not the unhopefullest husband that I know. Thus far can I praise him. He is of a noble strain, of approved valour and confirmed honesty. I would teach you how to humour your cousin that she shall fall in love with Benedict. And I, with your 2 helps, will so practise on Benedict that, in despite of his quick wit and his queasy stomach, he shall fall in love with Beatrice. If we can do this, Cupid is no longer an archer. His glory shall be ours, for we are the only love gods. Go in with me, and I'll tell you my drift." In other words, he's saying, and this is important because it seems like it's going to be a trick, but he's saying, well, actually, Benedict is a good man. He's of good birth, he's got a good family, he's brave, he's honest. So this is important in terms of the genre of comedy. We can't have some kind of tragic event. It's sort of saying, look, despite the banter and the bickering, they'll be great for each other. I'll teach you how to influence your cousin to fall in love with Benedict. Meanwhile, we men will work on Benedict so well that despite his cleverness and distaste for her, because we know at the moment both have established clearly, supposedly, that they don't like each other, he will fall in love with Beatrice. And if we manage this, we'll put Cupid out of a job. We'll be the love gods. Come inside with me, and I'll tell you my plan. A very long scene. I think it took us 5 videos to translate. Have a look at the analysis in the next video.